All right. It is Stairmaster and the steps. Okay, so what we're exploring today is how to use evidence, how to set it up, and what that looks like. So we're going to use a graphic organizer. Yay, graphic organizer. And so here's the teacher prompt. Through the tunnel, oh, our favorite short story. How does Jerry change in Through the Tunnel? So the question, of course, is about Jerry. How does he change? And then I want to answer that. Jerry changes from an overprotected childish boy into an independent, mature adult. Yes. And that is what we hope that all of you turn into as well. So let's see how we can use this chart. So let's go here. So first we want to find some evidence that proves the answer, not to the prompt, but of course to my answer, right? So I'm looking for evidence, right? And I have ways to frame that evidence. I want to then paraphrase said evidence, and then I want to analyze that evidence, and then I want to conclude with that evidence. And so yes, each one of these pieces will make together a wonderful paragraph, but it's a wonderful way to kind of outline how that evidences work. And so one of the things that we're kind of pushing is saying we want to move away from just simply saying, here it is, look, I'm right, to actually really explaining our thinking and how this goes. Okay, so here's our chart. So the first thing I need to do is go to the evidence. So I'm going to go back to the short story. I got to look through the evidence. What's the best quote? What's the best section? And I'm looking at this part at the end. And I'm going to say, oh, here, this is sort of something interesting. She was ready for a battle of wills, but he gave in at once. It was no longer of the least importance to go to the bay. Now, of course, on a very simple reading, that would just mean that he's very tired. But I actually think that by the fact that it's the last sentence of the story, this represents a very big change. So for my evidence, right? She was ready for a battle of wills. So then I got to paraphrase this evidence and put it into some context, right? I don't want to just simply say, here it is, and everybody knows what's going on, right? So at this point in the story, and notice what I did there, right? At this point in the story, I used this wonderful little sentence starter to kind of paraphrase this evidence. At this point in the story, Jerry has overcome the enormous challenge and no longer needs to prove himself, right? So I didn't actually exactly paraphrase it in the sense of exactly what just rewording this sentence. I paraphrased it also includes kind of adding some context. Where are we in the story? Where are we with the character? I didn't retell the whole story, but I did provide some sort of direction that this evidence sort of frames it, right? And I use my sentence starter. Now, analyzing the evidence. Analyzing the evidence should probably be your biggest chunk. This is where you really are sort of showing and connecting and getting your argument going, right? So, oh, look, right? It's the longest one, no surprise. I interpret this to mean, right? And look up here. I interpret this to mean. These are all sentence starters to get us going, to get us thinking, to making sure that we are doing analysis and not summary. I interpret this to mean that growing up can be about fighting our own battles. Jerry didn't have to swim through the cave, but he wanted to do it. Once he did it, he then no longer had to show his independence from his mother, nor did he have to prove himself any longer. It was almost as if he crossed some sort of imaginary line and will never go back. So some of this analysis, right, can have a little bit of that paraphrasing, getting some of that context, but right, it's a lot about who he is. What did he go through, right? And if I'm not exactly 100% clear in my analysis of evidence, right, I'm trying to explain why I picked this sentence, why I picked, what does it mean, right? I then go to my concluding statement. So I have my evidence, my paraphrasing the evidence, the analysis of the evidence, and then, right, again, I go up here. Um, uh, Blank clearly suggests to summary, as one can see, all of this is to say the fact that Jerry worked so hard at doing it and then has no inclination to go back emphasizes, right? Again, that's where, there it is, emphasizes, blank emphasizes. So I have to kind of say right? What's going on? His change from the childish boy to a new man who knows he is um, who knows who he is and how to prove himself. All right, so all of this is to say, use these 4 parts to write an amazing analysis of your evidence.